So let's dive a little bit deeper into playgrounds and writing some lines of code. And I'd love for you to do this along with me as I'm writing. I think that makes it a little bit easier. And the first thing I want to talk about is the actual interface. So in the interface, we have these numbers on the side, and these indicate what line we're on. They don't have anything to do with the program. They don't, affect the program in any way. The reason that they're there is to simply help us in identifying different lines. It makes it much easier for me to look at your code and say, well, check out what's happening on line 7 or line 207. That makes it a lot simpler. So just keep that in mind that doesn't really matter. Same with white space. You'll see that quite often. You'll see things like tabbed in sections. Really, that's just there to visually help you as a programmer understand the code. It doesn't affect how the computer understands the code, just how you understand the code. Okay, so we have this, and we have this running right now, and it ran these different lines. So it's saying, okay, hello playground, 10, hi there, 20, etc. So let's take a look at these and just understand everything. I'm going to ignore this import UI kit for now, okay? The only thing we need to know is that import, the reason that it's colored that way is because it's this known method that's basically saying, hey, Swift, import something called UI kit. And UI kit's just, kind of the general library used in all this stuff. So let's go down to line 3. Line 3 says var, V-A-R, and then the word str equals, and then in quotes, and this is colored differently, right? It might be colored differently on your computer, but it says hello playground in quotes, and then we have a new line. All right, so let's break down what this line means. So first we have the word var. Var means variable. Variable you can think of is in math, if we go back and think about our grade school math, a variable was something like x or y. So we might have had something that was like x plus 3 equals 6. And it was solved for the variable. X is the variable. So solving for that, it would be x equals 3, right? Okay. So in this case, we have a declaration. So this var is declaring this line. It's saying, hey, whatever comes after this, I'm declaring as a variable. So the next thing we have is the variable's name. And the variable declaration structure is very simple. We say var, so we're telling the computer, hey, the next thing I'm typing is variable. And we have the letters str, which is just a random name. It's just a name that was chosen. This could be whatever we wanted it to be. I could call this cool words. It just needs to be one word. That's the rule. And it can't start with a number, I believe. Let's see. Let's just double check that. I think, yeah, so it can't start with a number. So cool words. Then we have a space, and we say equals. And then we have this content. So what we're saying is, hey, make a variable called cool words and set it equal to, so the value of that variable is hello playground. All right, and again, remember, this name can be anything we want it to be. All right, this is just for us to understand. Let's go and make a new line down here, and I'm just going to say cool words. Okay, I'll hit play. And look at that, it prints the value hello playground. That's because this, right, is a variable. This is that x in the equation. What's the value of it? Well, the value of it is hello playground, because we have the words hello playground as the value. Cool words is a string. What that means is simply the type of variable is a string, and a string really is just a series of characters. Okay, string is a word, several words. It could be a whole book. It could be one letter. Doesn't matter. It's just letters. So if I look at this, I'm saying, okay, make a new variable called cool words, set it equal to a string called hello playground. It understands, the computer understands, okay, this is a string. This variable is a string. In a lot of other languages, you have to do something like this, which you also sometimes will do in Swift. These can be written numerous different ways, and you'll find that quite often. So that's saying var cool words. The type is a string, and it's going to be set equal to hello playground. This is exactly the same as this. Doesn't matter. I'm just showing you that for now. So a string is a type of variable, and there's many different data types, different types of variables. String is an extremely common one, and again, strings hold text. Let's look at the next line. Well, not the next line, I guess 2 lines down, line 5. We have another var, so that's the variable declaration. We're saying, hey, this next part is a variable, and its name is integer, okay? And it is set to 10. Now notice it's not set to 10 in quotes, like how this is. It's just set to 10. That's because this is not a string. This is an integer. If I hold down option, and option is going to be your best friend in all of these softwares, option changes my my cursor to a little crosshair, and that tells me that's now in like help mode. As I move it around, it'll highlight different parts of my screen. And as I click, it's going to tell me what it is. So if I hold it down and click, you're going to see var integer, and it's an int. So that's the data type here is int. And what do you think int stands for? Well, it stands for integer. If I hold down that option button and click on cool words, I'm going to see var cool words, and it's a string, just like we talked about. So this is exactly the same as this. So an integer just means a whole number, okay? So a whole number is an integer. So words and characters and things like that are strings. Whole numbers are integers. There's also things called doubles. I'm just giving it a random name called double tester, and it's going to be a double. And a double just means that it's a decimal. That's all that it means. So it's not a whole number. There's other things like floats, etc., that do different things. We're not going to worry about data types too much right now. So we have this int, and we have this string up here, hello playground. We have this other string right here, so this is another variable declaration. So we say var string2 equals, and the string is hi there. Let's change this to be something else. So let's just highlight this and say strings always exist in quotes. All right, that's important to remember. Strings always exist in quotes. If I remove this, this is not a string anymore, okay? And in fact, it breaks my code. I have to have quotes around a string. Here we have a second integer, and it's equal to 20. Now before, remember we printed this word, cool words. We just had it down here, and it gave us the value. Let's add to this style. So let's print another one. So let's print integer and hit play. And it's going to print the value of integer, which is 10. Okay, so we have this one called integer up here, and we have this one called integer 2. Cool, so we have the value of 10. Let's print integer 2. That's the value of 20. Let's try something new. Let's add them together. Now we have a value of 30. So look, it actually added the two together. So it added the first integer, which was 10, to the second integer. There's all kinds of mathematical things we can do. We can type in integer times. So that should give us 200. Let's try divide. Having a hard time spelling integer, obviously. We have 0 because we're dividing. That's actually not a good example here. Let's do integer 2 divided by integer. So that should give us 2. All right, because it's dividing 20 by 10. So we can add these together quite simply and get new values. We can also do the same thing with strings. Strings can be added together. So let's do cool words plus string 2. And let's see what happens here. Now we have hello playground, strings always exist in quotes. It added the two strings together. It combined them. What if we wanted to add, for example, this string plus this integer? So let's do cool words plus integer and see what happens. I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to get an error. This is our first error, and you're going to get very, very used to this. So a lot of people have a hard time dealing with errors in code because they don't fully understand the code, and whenever they get this error, they don't know how to deal with it. And oftentimes they'll just delete the line and restart and try something else, and maybe that'll also break, and they'll keep doing it until it works. What's important, and what I want to really get into your head throughout this class, is to focus on really reading what the errors are and understanding what they are. So let's read this error. I have a little stop sign here, and I'm going to click it. And it says, well, you can't really read it very well, but it says binary operator plus cannot be applied to operands of type string and int. So let's kind of think about what that means. It's saying you can't add a string and an int, okay? I can't add those together. The reason is because they don't have the same type. This is a string, and this is an int. We can't add the two together until we change this one to a string, or I guess in the case of this one could become an int. But remember, this is a whole number. So this is a whole number, 10. Let's change it to a string. And I'm going to do that. I'm just going to delete this first part right here. It's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to put it in quotes. So now that number 10, and it's going to give me a ton of errors up here. We can just ignore these lines for now. I'll hit play. May not actually get, yeah, it's not actually going to get down to our thing. Let's just, I'm going to show you a new thing real quick that I wasn't planning on showing yet, but I'm going to comment these lines out, which just means I put backslash, or forward slash, forward slash, forward slash, forward slash, forward slash, forward slash. Whenever I do that, what that means is that's a signal to the computer that this is a comment, meaning ignore it. It's just telling the computer, ignore that line, and that's really what we use all the time for different types of testing. I'm going to hit play. Okay, cool. So cool words plus string 2, we have the strings together. And now cool words plus integer, we have those two strings together because this is now a string. Let's change that back to an int by just simply removing those quotes. And I'm going to remove our comments here. And hit play, and I'm going to get that same error again because remember, I can't add a string to an integer. So the one last thing I'm going to show you is that it's possible to convert things in the moment. So let's convert this integer to a string. So right now the integer holds a value of 10, and I want to convert it to being a string. Well, this is one of the coolest functions within Swift. I just type in the word string, parentheses, and then put another parentheses around the other side. So all I said was string, parentheses, integer. That's saying, take that integer, convert it to a string. Notice the S in string is capitalized. We'll talk more about that in a future video. But basically what I'm saying is convert the integer up here to a string, and I'll hit play. And it works. I don't get that error anymore. It added the two together. So, very simply, what we've done so far is we've talked about variables, we've talked about adding variables together, and we've talked about even converting variables. And this is pretty advanced stuff. So I want to just get through, how a playground works and how we can use it to kind of test and play around with things and see what happens and see what comes out of them.